Hey, how's it going, everyone? I just want to show you this cool project I'm working on in this code boot camp that I'm doing at the clubhouse. For those of you guys who have been following me, I've been in this code boot camp at a local hackerspace here in Augusta, Georgia, and it's been pretty cool. I knew how to do how to work with CSS and JavaScript and HTML and other web technologies before I enrolled in this boot camp, but the thing is, I had learned all this stuff on my own through Udemy courses, through W3 schools. Like most people, I've learned it kind of just like picking up as I go. And I just wanted to get better at this and like take a real full-fledged course and really learn everything from top to bottom, because it always seemed like whenever I was making sites, stuff was kind of just missing. And I just thought this was a really cool opportunity that we have this place here in Augusta that will let you get those skills. Yeah, this is kind of me after a little bit of time in the course. I made a JavaScript game. All the files and stuff are right here. It's just a fun, like, kind of text adventure game. I mean, this isn't really a crazy web application. Like, I've worked on stuff that's probably more complex, but the thing is, I understood parts of the code and I didn't understand every single line. Whereas, like, this type of application, like, I know every single line and I really thought about the way that I made everything. So it's kind of cool. This is like a text adventure game. It's like if you saw the Netflix show Bandersnatch, or if you played Zork, it's that type of basis. So you can pick these buttons, and these buttons will guide you through a state of actions. So if I go to View Window, this takes me to a state where I'm in front of a window, and then I have three more options. So I can look out a window, and I can meditate, look out a window, can meditate, can go back to my room, I can go outside and go to work. You can kill your boss, which is kind of crazy. Then if you clean up the blood, you get busted and there's like a GIF behind it. So you can go back to it, and there's a lot of different options, and I'm probably going to add more to it, and it's locally hosted on in my GitHub repo. So if you want to play it, you can play it, but the purpose of this video is to show you guys how to build a text adventure-based game using JavaScript. I thought it was a really fun application. This is the code that I'm using for that application that you just saw, and it's made up in three big chunks. So if you look at the HTML, I've got a div, which is my body, and then I have a paragraph which contains the text for the story. And I have three buttons, and each one of these has a JavaScript function tied to it. I don't know if this is called the callback or whatever it is, but when you click on each one of those buttons, it calls this JavaScript function in the JS. And if you go to the JS file here, so I get each one of those buttons by its ID, and then I get that paragraph tag by its ID, and I get the div by the ID. A lot of this stuff is like making a story. So this is a big JavaScript object, and the story is made up of a bunch of keys and values. Each key is a state in the story. Each value is the story that will be put in the paragraph. So if you're home, the paragraph tag should show you live in a modest house with IKEA furniture and cream colored walls. Okay, and then story choice is another JavaScript object that has a key, and that key is associated with another JavaScript object that has three keys. Each one of these keys is the value that should appear on the button. So if I look at the example page, this button right here has a function tied to it, but then it gets this text view window. And then if I go to view window, you see how all that stuff gets updated? The value of these buttons gets changed, and the value of the paragraph gets changed. All that stuff comes from these JavaScript objects that I have. So if you wanted to like make, for example, like a quiz app, you could do the same exact thing. Or if you wanted to make I don't know, like something that just contains information that follows states, you could do this type of application for it. You could even make it so that someone can make their own story, which is eventually what I'm going to do. I want to get it so that you can fill out a form, and like each time it asks you, like, you know, you can add another part to your story, and you can put like a whole entire story together with a bunch of image tags and a bunch of states and a bunch of options, but you can build it yourself without having to code it. So these JavaScript objects contain all of the data that's used in the game. And then I have this main function right here. You see that I call that in here, but main function contains a giant switch case statement where each one of the cases is a state. So it's looking for the state right here. When the state's equal to home, it's going to change the paragraph tag text to home, which is right here. So the paragraph tag gets you live in a modest house with IKEA furniture and green colored walls. And then I do all these button functions. So I change the HTML within the button. What's really cool about this is I can refactor this and make it simpler. So I'm going to do a refactor on it, but I want to show it kind of like at this state how it's raw, because I have the general idea of the game figured out. It's really just taking these JavaScript objects and changing the HTML on changing what's in the HTML of these elements. So the other thing that I do is I change the background of the UI to a different color each time, because I think that kind of helps a player kind of like see like, okay, there's been a change or something. So this is just a giant switch case statement. You can see how many cases I have. So the big task in like making a game like this is figuring out how the story flows. And then each one of the buttons has that button 1 click function, button 2 click function, button 3 click function. Those are these functions that get called in the JS. And so for example, if I'm in home and I click button 1, that should take me to the state window. If I'm in home and I click button 2, that should take me to the state home view. If I'm in home and I click button 3, that should take me to the state outside. And at the end of all of these, I always call main. Why? Main is basically a thing that updates the entire UI. So after I change the state, I call main. This thing checks the state and it goes through and it assigns HTML inside of each one of those buttons. So I just kind of want to like take a second and I'll show you how you can do this from scratch. So I'm going to close these guys down, close these guys down, close these guys down. This is really cool. I like this thing. This is HTML5 template code. So I'm gonna get that. So HTML5 boilerplate. So I'm gonna download that. The other thing that's really cool about this is it's super responsive. Like look at that view when I actually like bring everything down and the game still works. Can go. It's really simple. It's a fun application. All right, I'm gonna make a new folder here on the desktop. We'll call it text adventure. I hate when it leaves an E out like that. That's annoying. Okay, I'm going to take all this stuff out of this boilerplate code. Okay, I'm just going to extract all to browse desktop. Okay, and I'm going to get rid of that now. I don't need that. This editor is pretty cool. This is called Visual Studio Code. It's really nice. It takes a while to get it set up the way you want it, but I use this for C program. I used to use Notepad++, like the old videos I have, I use Notepad++, but this is actually so much better. All right, I'm gonna open up the thing on my desktop here. So text adventure, I'm gonna open this. This editor is pretty sweet. I used to use Visual Studio to do C++ stuff, and of course if you do like Unity or Unreal Engine, I don't know why, but for some reason like all the code I ever wrote for those things is always in Visual Studio. So Visual Studio Code is kind of like, it's just a really versatile text editor. And it should start to recognize all the HTML in here. Cool. All right, so to get this game started, what we're gonna do is we're gonna work with the HTML here, and I'm gonna go into JS, I'm gonna open up main.js, and then I'm gonna go to CSS. I'll open up the CSS, and somehow I lost the index.html. So these are the 3 files I'm gonna be working with, and you don't even really have to worry about linking all this stuff. It's all linked up here. Check out, we got CSS main here, and then we have the JavaScript tag here. So now all I have to do is open this up as like a tester. I'm gonna open this up so we can see it in Chrome. So I'm gonna get rid of this, I'm gonna get rid of that, and I'm gonna go to text adventure, and I'm gonna click on index.html to open up a preview. Cool, so hello world, this is HTML5 boilerplate. All right. So hello world, this is HTML5 boilerplate. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make 3 HTML elements. So the first one's gonna be div, and I'm gonna do class equals UI body, and then I'm gonna do a p tag, and I'm gonna say class equals UI text, and then I'm gonna do button. Actually, I want to show you guys a cool thing. Okay, so this is cool about Visual Studio Code. So if you hold down the Alt key, oh god. All right, I gotta start back here. If you hold down the Alt key and you type and you click again and you click again, you can drop 3 cursors, and then you hit, not caps, if you hit tab. I don't know, the formatting's not that great, but now look at this. I can type all these things in at the same time. You do class equals button, and I need a hyphen, and then I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now this is actually cool because I just showed you that alt thing. I actually want to use these all as IDs because these are going to be really specific. So I'm going to change all of these to ID attributes. Okay. Now let's put in some fake text. So if you type lorem and then tab, Alt-Z will bring everything into the window so that you can just see all your text. It does text wrap. And we're going to put down C1, C2, C3. Let's just make sure all this stuff actually still works in the HTML. So go here, reload. Okay, so I got lorem ipsum and my 3 buttons. Doesn't do anything right now, but we're about to change that. So we'll go into main.js and we're going to do let UI body equal document dot get element by ID. and we're going to use this UI body. That's the ID that we have. So we're going to pass that in. Get element by ID, UI body. Okay, and let UI text equal document dot get element by ID UI text, and then we're going to do our buttons. So I'm going to do Alt, the heck, Alt, 3 buttons, let button equal document dot get element by ID button this is going to be button 1, button 2, button 3, button 1, button 2, button 3. Okay, these are all coming from 1, 2, 3 here. Cool. So now I've got enough stuff to be able to get the HTML elements. Now the thing that we want to do is add some functions for our buttons. Each one of those buttons we want to be able to check when it gets clicked. We want it to do something. But before we do that, how about we just rewrite our main function? I don't know if this is like a standard thing that people who write JavaScript seems really kind of like one of those languages that it's the Wild West. I have no idea if this is the way that people write things, but I like programming things in C and C++, and there's always a main, and it returns 0, so I just put everything in a main function. The other thing that we're going to need is state. So let's do state equals home. So we got state home. Let state equal home. And let's just get something that we can test here. So I'm going to start with the switch case statement. So switch state, we're going to take in the argument state here. And the first case I'm going to check is, are we at home? If we're at home, then let's do UI text dot inner HTML equals you are at home. Okay, now let's check our HTML. All right, something's going on here. Oh, the thing is, I made main, but I'm not actually calling it. So I don't know if this is the way that people would do it. I would, declare my global variables at the top, and then I have my main function. I'm writing my main function definition here, and then I'm calling it here. So save that, and go here. You are at home. Okay, so that's working. So that's allowing us to set our HTML. Now, we want to be able to have a set of stories. So build, or we'll call this Java JSON that contains states and stories associated with the state. Okay, so this is a JavaScript object. So the way that we write a JavaScript object is we do let story. We use curly braces for JavaScript objects. So let story equal, in curly braces, we're going to put our key home, in our value you are at home. Chill out or or whatever. Okay, so now instead of this being UI text.innerHTML, making this into a string, I want to assign the value you are at home, chill out, or whatever. So the way that we can do that, we can get access to that value, because that's going to be associated with the key home. We write story, and then we can get access to that value by putting home in here. Okay, cool. So this, right now, our test says you are at home, right? It'll say chill out or whatever if this works. So let's refresh this. There we go. Now we're accessing that through this key home. Now let's get our buttons put together. So JSON of JSON that contains states and button values for the associated state. I just got this. I just want to put that in there because I don't want people to forget that you gotta call main. Okay, so now we're gonna make a thing to store our button values. So we're gonna do let story buttons, let story choice equal. Our first state is going to be home. That's what we're dealing with right now. Home. Now home is going to have. So if I go into home, then the next thing I want to do is I want to have button 1 as my next key. And you can call it whatever you want, but I'm going to go with button 1 as my first key, and I'm going to say view window maybe, and then my next one's going to be button 2 view floor, and button 3 view kitchen. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. And here's the thing about this. I should have told you this. It feels so bad. But you want to have a default case. If it's default, it should print. I don't know. We don't have anything for default, but you want default at the end of your switch case statement. It's weird that JavaScript lets you do that without actually. You can write a switch case statement without having default. But if you have trouble, with the switch case statement, go to W3 Schools and definitely check out how to do switch case statements, because that's what this thing's going to use. So we're still in the case of home. Now what we want to do is we want to mess with the button text. We want to change the button text once we're in the home state. So I'm going to access button 1, and I'm going to set that inner HTML of button 1. So the inner HTML of button 1 is this right here. Right now it's set to C1. We're going to override that here. We're going to say button1.innerHTML equals story choice. First we got to get the key home, okay? Now we're in the key home. The next thing we want to do is go into button 1. That's our next key. And then that's going to change the inner HTML to view window. I almost wrote that. Button 1. Forgot a quote over here. Okay, so if this works, what we should see is view window should replace C1 here, right? This inner HTML here should get changed to that. So refresh, view window. Now we just got to do the same thing for each one of these. So copy this. Now you do button 2, button 3, button 2, button 3. There we go. View floor, view kitchen, view floor, view window. We got those buttons in there. But the buttons don't do anything. So the other thing we want to do is we want to add some functionality to that. So what we need is this thing called onClick equals. Got to have a name for our function, so we'll call it button click, and I'm going to have to make each one of these individually. So this is an individual function for each one. Button 1 click, and I got to have close parentheses because it's a function, and then button 2 click, close parentheses because it's a function, button 3 click, close parentheses because it's a function. Now each one of these has to be a function in my JavaScript. So, what the heck's that? No, I don't know what that was doing. Okay, so I just want to get a couple spaces here because I'm going to use that alt click thing. So I'm going to go function. What did I call these? Button click. Now I got to go and put my number in between each one of these. Button 1, button 2, button 3. Okay, so let's put our switch case in here. The thing is, I'm actually writing pretty bad code right now. Like, if you think about it, all of these things should be you should never repeat yourself in your code. So I should actually make this into a function, but just for simplicity, I'm going to make it into the same thing for each one of these. Like, what I'm saying is I'm using switch state, switch state, switch state for each one of these. And it's a function button 1 click, function button 2 click, function button 3 click. Like, this is very redundant code. So this could all be modified, but the trick is when you first start out making something, what I've learned is you might as well just make it as basic as possible to start with, because you're only going to add complexity by starting to refactor right now. So I would say get it working 100% and then refactor it. That's just me. So we're going to put in our case home, and then we're going to change the state when we're at home. State equals, it's going to be different for each one of these, something different for each one. Got break and default does nothing. So let's just have it go, we'll have, we're going to have oh man, the spacing on this is all messed up. This is so annoying. Okay, so we're going to have floor. You're looking at the floor and kitchen. Let's make food and finally, window. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. A window. Oh, wow. A window. Okay, cool. All right, so we'll save that. And now here's the cool thing. I'm just going to copy this set of JSON. Go down, paste it, go down, paste it, go down, paste it. Nothing more annoying than when your stuff does not align. Oh, that irritates me so much. But I want to get this done for people. So, all right, we got floor, and if we're at the floor, we can go view home and view kitchen and view window, and if we're in kitchen, view home, view floor, view window, and if we're in window, we're going to have view home, view floor, view kitchen. Great. Okay, so if we are at home and we're looking at and we're at home, we have our buttons. If we click on button 1, then that should take us to window. So for this part, we should change our state to window. And if we are looking at button 2, that should take us to the floor. And if we click on button 3, that should take us to kitchen. So state kitchen. Here's the trick though. After each one of these cases, nothing's going to happen. Click on this, refresh. Up, even though I'm clicking on it, nothing's happening. So what we have to do is we have to make a case for each one of these states. So we have case window. I'm just actually, you know what? It's going to be easier to just do this. Just copy this thing because I need to make one for window. I need to make one for floor. I need to make one for kitchen. So here's one for window. So I need to make this into window. Check out this alt thing. I use this so much in Visual Studio Code. It's great. Do you see how this could be a function though? This could easily be a function, right? Because I'm just only changing that argument window. I can already kind of tell how I would refactor this whole entire thing. But here's the trick, always get it working first, because so many people just try to do all this crazy stuff in their code initially and they don't have working code, and then they can't refactor anything because they never got working code. Kitchen. All right, now I have all the states for these, right? I got window, floor, kitchen. Now if I go back, refresh, it still doesn't work. Problem is, yeah, it's calling that button 1 click, and it's calling button 2 click, and it's calling button 3 click, but this never calls main, and it never updates the state. So after this, I gotta call main. So I'm gonna use alt, main. Now let's see. view home, view kitchen. Now I haven't put in any of the other states in here, and I don't think it's actually beneficial for me to do that at this point. It's just going to be the same thing. So I'm now in the window state, so I'd make another thing here called case window, and then if I'm in the window, my state should be equal to, let's see, what did I put for my, what should button 1 be for window? Let's see. Okay, let's go up here. Window, button 1 should take me home, so I should change this to state home. And then you'd have to do case window for each one of these buttons, and then it would work. But this will work for a little bit of the game. So if I click view window and then I click view home, okay, now I can go back and forth between these states, and you can see it changing in the inspector. All right, I hope that this video was useful. I learned all of this stuff through the Clubhouse Code Bootcamp. Like, okay, so I knew a little bit of web development, but I gotta say that the level of web development, the level of like being able to just code things and I don't know, I guess I have like a more professional understanding of web development and how to do things now that I've been in this code bootcamp, and it hasn't even been a month, so I still have 12 weeks I have like about 2.5 months left of this course, and I would say like I'm okay, like I understand like how to like do stuff with databases and stuff, but I think that this course is really kind of getting those small questions. So if you're a web developer and you have some, like, you're kind of wondering how to do things the right way, or you want to know all of the ins and outs of JavaScript and CSS and HTML and, you know, working with databases, we're going to go through all of that stuff in this bootcamp. It's going to be really cool. I'm really excited. I think it's really worthwhile, and it's much cheaper than getting a whole 4-year degree. I have a bachelor's in physics, but this code bootcamp is cool. It's great. You know, you're going into this class and you're working with other people. You work on really cool projects, and by the end of it, you have all the skills that someone who has taken like a year of online web development courses has, but you got it done in 12 weeks. So definitely check out the Clubhouse in Augusta, Georgia, if you can. It's a really fun place. It's definitely like my favorite place here in Augusta. There's so much innovation there. Everyone there is really into whatever they're doing. They have a lot of passion for whatever they're doing, and they're not just passionate, they're doing stuff about it. They're making courses, they're making businesses, and they're producing things. So definitely check out the Clubhouse if you can. All right, I hope you like this video.